All right, so now let's see how this all comes together. Let's jump over to the MAR. So if we go to the MAR, and what we're going to do is pull up John Doe's MAR for October. You have the option of displaying the time taken or not. Let's just go ahead and do that. It does add a little bit more clutter to the MAR, but you have the option of displaying it or not displaying it. Depends on if your agency requires it. Let's make this a little bit bigger. Now, as you can see here, today is the 21st. You can see that 11 MCD, which is the initial for manager demo. You can see that morning medication was given. You can see all the other morning medications were given as well. Now, if you go up, you see that the noon medication, the leave of absence, you can see was given by JS, which is Janet Smith, and so you can see that on the MAR. Now, you can also see that some dates were missing here, for instance, the 20th and 19th, and we know that those medications were given. So now, some agencies, you have the ability as an administrator, if you define that you can give your administrators or managers access to what we call the MAR worksheet, where you can make big modifications in bulk to your medication log. For whatever reason, something didn't get added, or maybe the system was down, or for instance, your staff didn't have access to the computer at the time and couldn't make it and couldn't add the information in. You can go back and use the MAR worksheet. So if we click on the MAR worksheet, and by the way, if you click the plus button here, or if you click the link here, both of them will do the same as adding. All right, so let's go ahead and click on the MAR worksheet. And we're going to choose, again, John Doe, and we'll click for October. And again, most agencies, only the administrators have access to this form so that they can make these bulk modifications. And that will be noted that this was, was something that we went back and fixed. So for instance, here, if you click on the 20th, now you can administer all the medications for that day because you know that information was actually given. All right. So now you can see that the 20th, it's been filled in with MCD for this person. All right, so let's go back home and let's make the screen a little bit smaller again so we can see things. Okay, so now we've completed the medications. Now, there are a number of forms here that you can choose from. There's an activities form. This is where you would define the actual activities for your agency. And then the activity log is where you can track those activities. Now, the activity log is displayed here, but it's also a part of the progress notes, so you can enter it directly or you can enter it through the progress notes. You can see behaviors. You can add as many behaviors as you want in the system if your staff has access to that, and they can archive the behaviors. So let's just go ahead and take a look at the behaviors. Again, you can do this real time from the progress notes, but we'll just show it to you here. You can add a behavior specific for John Doe, or you can maybe add one for all residents so you can get this information on the screen as quickly as possible. You see all the behaviors that are specific to John Doe, and then you see all the ones that are for all of your residents. Okay? You can add, let's see what else we want to talk about here. You can track body assessments, bowel movements, resident files. So this is where you can upload any number of files related to your residents. If you call them resident, again, if it was individuals or whatever you call it, that's how this would be defined. So let's go ahead and click here, and just so you can see this process, and we'll just choose John Doe, and we'll go ahead and manage John Doe's files. John now has a complete file. This is a file management system, a separate file management system that you can use. You can add new files, new folders, delete files, etc., and manage that entire thing in our file system. Okay. So let's go back and see, we've talked about resident files, contact notes you can track, custom progress notes templates. This is where you can define templates that will show up on your progress notes. For instance, we talked about having one specific for counseling session. You can define as many as you want, and they will show up when you're on the progress notes. You can select them. So for instance, you can define a new one, or you can modify the ones that you've defined already. So let's say this is the counseling session, but you can ask additional questions. Like you can just modify them. All right. Let's see what else we want to talk about here. Again, I won't go through all of these forms. You can track your daily expense ledger. So this gives you the ability to track, the receipts, expenses, etc., related to your residents. If you have specific day program monitoring, you can do that. doctors, and you can add your doctors and providers, doctor visits, helpful interventions, which is also, we saw that on our progress note. You can track important dates, incident reports. We talked about MAR worksheet, medication log of medications, overnight checks, personal and incidentals, which is a different way from the different way of tracking from the daily expense ledger. It's just some agencies track it this way, others use the daily expense. Again, I'm showing you these options, but again, if these forms are not relevant to you, you would simply just uncheck them and they would not display for your agency. Progress notes we discussed. Progress review, this is where you can just basically do an overall review of the resident. Now, we'll show you our reports that pulls all of this stuff together in just a minute, and really that's where the software kind of shines, when you've done all of this and then you can see the reporting. We talked about tasks already. You can do requests for funds. This is basically tracks the visits, safety drills, shift summary, staff absence requests. You can do your staff absence requests here. You can track vital signs and weights. And again, any form that you don't see here, we can actually add custom forms to our system. You send us a form, we will evaluate it and tell you how long it takes to add those forms into our system. Now, in most of the forms that you may even send us, we might have done a form very similar, so it may not take too long to get it accomplished, because we have a lot of our agencies that have, again, a lot of similar forms because of when you're providing care for individuals. I mean, there are only certain things that you need to do.